guys, we are back with another episode. Today I have a special guest. We're going to be talking a little bit about real estate, coming to America, and how we're both running our businesses. So today, Femi, can you give everyone an introduction?
Hey guys, Femi Kolawole, or I'll say Oluwafemi Kolawole.
Yeah, give him the full name.
Yeah, that's the full name, Oluwafemi Kolawole. I go by Femi most times. CEO of Deals on Demand. Run a real estate investing company here in Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, what else?
So I think one thing I try to do on this show is kind of tell everyone how they've gone through phases of figuring it out in life, in business. And one thing I don't think a lot of people realize, at least on Instagram, is you didn't grow up in Cleveland.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Funny enough, I don't know. Now I think my accent is completely dying out, but I'm reactivating it. So I'm gonna
Bringing it
speak
back a
more.
little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak more natural. But yeah, I didn't grow up in Cleveland. Born and raised in Nigeria. Actually, moved here in 2017 July. Actually, just did my 7th year anniversary in Cleveland, Ohio. Was supposed to go to North Dakota because I got an admission out there. But I had family here, my extended family, my uncle and my aunt was staying here, and they're like, hey, just stop by Cleveland, see if you like it.
So when you were a kid, did you know about America? Like, was that a plan, or was it kind of this fantasy land of oh, there's America over there?
I think everybody growing up in Nigeria hopes one day to travel out of Nigeria. So it was always a plan. But I mean, I grew up, not in the best of areas. So it was just this wish, one day when I work very hard and I have a family, we'll relocate. But actually, my grandmother is a citizen here because my aunt brought her here and she got her permanent residency, then got her citizenship. So the plan was for her to file for all of my parents, but that takes a very long time.
A lot of paperwork?
Yeah, a lot of paperwork, a lot of money. So my mom has been waiting since I was probably 5.
I mean, I think she
for our
can sneak
interview
in at this point,
So she's been waiting for a long time. So my hope was always okay, my mom would go and then I'll get it through my mom and then come here. But I mean, throughout my high school, it wasn't even a thought I'll be in the U.S.
So when you're in Nigeria, are people thinking, I need to go to America? Or is it maybe I'll go to France? Maybe I'll go to Canada?
I just want to travel out of the country.
Yeah.
Because it's still a third world country. We're doing better, way better now, developmental wise. But there's still a lot less opportunities than the U.S. or a lot of other countries have it. So it's always a goal for people. People would get their degrees, and the next thing is to try and travel out to get better opportunities. But there's a lot of people that make a shitload of money in Nigeria too. So it's either ways, really.
So when you are saying third world, what's an example of third world growing up in Nigeria? What is a nice dinner? What is a not so nice dinner? What are some amenities you have?
I'll say, typically everything that you have here, you have there. It just depends on what part you grew up in. I grew up in where I'm investing in right now, pretty much those type of areas. I grew up in we had 1 bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom.
Okay.
And there's 3 of us, plus my mom and dad, and we always had family around. So my parents would take 1 bed in 1 room, and then I and my sisters would take the other bed in the same room.
Okay.
Then the other family members that are staying with us would probably sleep in the living room. Some on the floor, on the couch, and wherever you can.
So you were space efficient.
Yeah, we made it happen. And the funny thing though that my mom did that I'm always really impressed by, and I think is one thing that really gets me going through challenges is outside people never knew that's where I grew up. People just, even back in Nigeria, people just never could tell. We still had the best of clothes, even if they were secondhand clothes. I mean, less than Goodwill was where we're buying this clothes.
So she was a little thrifty.
Yeah, she was very thrifty. And people would be admiring our clothes that are from thrift shops versus their new stuff.
Hey, Katie, you'll appreciate this. So Katie ran thrift shops for 2 years before she worked with me. I don't know if I told you this.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she would get clothes in bulk from wholesalers, and then she would pick the winners out and then throw them on Etsy, eBay.
Oh,
so
that's crazy.
She'll appreciate this. I just had to shout that out.
Yeah, that was the everyday thing that my family used to do. That was just where I got clothes from. Buying clothes from the boutique was, why would I spend that much? It didn't make sense.
And so what age are you now? Just so people can have a timeline of when you were growing up in Nigeria.
Age since I was born till about 17.
Okay.
Was when I started living in Nigeria. I think I did my 17-year-old birthday here. I was only 2 months in Cleveland when I did my 17-year-old birthday. So imagine a 16-year-old boy just walking through the airport. That was my second time being on a plane, because right before I had to move here, I got this one trip with like my school to go
Okay.
to Ireland for some leadership training program. That was my first time on a flight ever.
Were you nervous?
I was nervous as hell. Not nervous
Did you like
because of the
interview the
flight.
pilot or something?
Not nervous because it was a whole school trip, but it was just like, it's so surreal to me.
Yeah.
Because I also knew like my mom had to break the bank literally because she was planning for my flight to the US, plus trying to take on that expense as well. So she was literally our last. And I wasn't the best of kids back in Nigeria. So I was doing some crazy stuff. We were fighting. I was actually having a whole argument with her. So it was quite surreal for her to like still decide to send me to the US because that was her last. Like I had access to all of my mom's bank accounts. So I know it was like her last.
It was the final shot.
Yeah, it was like, bro, right now with all this stuff that you just pulled off in the last couple months, I don't even trust you to succeed. I'm just doing it because I'm your mom and like I gotta do good shit.
So do you think she maybe saw that fire in you and was like, even though I don't like where he's at right now, I think he's still a right investment?
Not really. I don't think she made it from that perspective at all. It was more so like, look, this is my way of getting you out of this environment because the environment really started to affect me. Because growing up, because she sent us to like a private school that was out of her expense. I mean, sent me because my sister still went to like good schools, but not as expensive as the high school I was going to.
Okay.
So she did everything to kind of protect me from my environment because it was very normal for the guy kid in that environment to kind of wander off into more street life.
Yeah.
So she tried everything to kind of keep me aligned, keep me out of those kind of environments. And to just see that, like, regardless, I was still finding my way going in that direction was very worrying for her. So that was like her last shot. Is like, hey, look, I'm sending you completely out of this continent. So
Full restart.
Yeah, if you don't make it out there, or if you don't change your ways out there, I really have no.
And then
other
at least
hope.
in her head, she can be like, I tried.
Yeah. I think that was it. That was the perspective she was making of like, hey, at least I tried. I really put my all into you, and you just found a way to still fuck it up. So and I didn't, thankfully.
Yeah. So what was your idea of America then? So like in your head, obviously you probably have a vision, right? And then you get here. What was the same and what was different?
So I just felt like, I think everybody in Nigeria just felt like, if you go to America, it automatically is just easier for you. Like you automatically just make more money. Because even when we would ask my aunt for stuff and she couldn't send it to us, I'm like, you're just stingy. You just don't want to help out your family.
Yeah,
like,
isn't she
what
in
the
America?
hell? Like, this is America. Don't you have a tree that grows money at the backyard or something? But like coming here and actually seeing, as far as like, I didn't have a culture shock based off of like, oh wow, there's cars, there's houses, because that's normal.
Yeah.
But it was more so like just the perspective that people live life through.
Like how they think.
Yeah, how they think, how they act, the way people relate with each other. I grew up in like having a whole compound. Like I said, like I knew my neighbors. I went to school with my neighbors. Like I go eat in their house sometime. Like that kind of stuff.
I mean, you gotta live in an HOA for that to happen.
Yeah. But here it's more so like, you and your family is just your family focused, like your immediate family, not even your extended family or anything like that. If you have a good relationship with your extended family, I've seen here, it's more like a blessing. Like your family is really cool.
Yeah, I have divorced parents. So there's technically 4 side families. One of them I would say I'm close with, and even out of all of those cousins, I maybe talk to 1 to 2 on a monthly basis.
That's crazy.
And that's considered the close side.
I think it's becoming more like, but I feel like this, now I'm not really as close with a lot of my cousins, few of them here, some of them back in Nigeria, just because, everybody's grown up now, but it's kind of, they're in that figuring their life out.
Different path.
Yeah, different path. And but every time you go back home, it's super fun. Everybody gathers around. We have parties, we hang out, and yeah, it's pretty fun. But I haven't gone back since I came here, so I'm waiting to see what that would look like.
So what do you think their perception is going to be of you? Obviously, you've been, so this will be what, year 7 in America?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of them are shocked even right now because, like I said, I was a bad ship of the family. Like my mom is the very loved woman. My sisters are like awesome, doing great in school. Femi is like, come on, dude. Like, dude.
Not in school.
Yeah, like, having subpar grades. But I feel like, now I'm knowing, and I just know like I just learn based off of my interest. I'm not a sit down in the classroom type of guy. I'm a go back home and research what I really care about. Yeah. So I think it's not really understood in Nigeria. Nigeria is like you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're an engineer, or you're a failure.
Real estate investor.
Real estate investor, like for you to break into real estate in Nigeria, it's like
You have to be like an
The barrier
old
to
guy at a
entry.
bank or something.
Yeah, you got to know people. You got to know the politicians. You like
Oh,
it's
it's like
for you
that.
to really
Yeah.
make money off of it. Yeah, you can buy a land with your family and just wait for appreciation, but to be a real estate investor, it's very
Like to do
capital
the
intensive.
volume you do here, like how
Oh,
connected would you have to be?
you got to know the governor of your state probably.
Really?
Yeah, you got to know like the commissioner. You got to know like different people like really well. You got to really be influential to like really pull off that much volume. Like to you now, sometimes I think, but every time I think I'm not doing well enough here, I'm like, dude.
Like, is that overwhelming to people back in Nigeria for them to realize how I guess free maybe is the right word? You can, I mean, really either do well or do poorly in business. No one really stops you.
Yeah. I think I really gave them the idea to know like you can start younger because the plan for a lot of people coming here, or at least with my friends, like, okay, come here, go through school, get your degree, get a job, get stabilized first, then maybe venture into business. I did the complete opposite.
It's not going to happen.
I did the complete opposite. I did more so come here, tried school, 2 years into it. So like, I don't like this shit, just like Nigeria, dropped out and just pursued real estate full time.
Yes, because where was your head at to even go into that? Like, did you have to get through some limiting beliefs of like, I can do this, I want to do this? Like, what actually drove you to make that action?
I like change a lot. I like to feel excited about whatever I'm doing. You know, I have to feel so I can still remember CSU just around the corner from here. The engineering building is full of glass. They were teaching us how to program traffic lights. And I sat there and I was like, what the hell am I going to do with this information? Like, they've already invented traffic lights. I'm not going to redo this invention. So I just didn't understand. And I was paying out of pocket almost $12,000 a semester that I'm still trying to figure out how the hell I'm about to pay that. And I'm like, so even if I come up with $12,000, would I want to hand it over to these people? Or would I want to figure out something else to use that money to? And that was just the decision to just, and
Does it shock you how many Americans never have that thought?
yeah. A lot of things really lately, even just the fact that I could go ahead and just still do that. Not even Americans, even with immigrants that I feel like come here too and still just replay the things that their parents, and I don't fault the parents for it, that
They're given the best info they have.
yeah, exactly. That's the info they have. That's what played out for them when they moved into the US now. A lot of things have changed. And you owe it to yourself for taking that risk to discover other things that you can do and take that risk, you know?
And for everyone watching, like if you see your parents struggle to order food on DoorDash, you cannot trust that that's going to be the same person who knows the best opportunity financially in our market. Like they're just not. A lot of times they're either stuck in a job that they're going to stay at till they retire. Maybe they are retired, or they're in a position where they're going to do part-time work. So you can't look at them as the person who's going to know the best opportunity for their kid.
Yes. And I mean, I had to recorrect and retrain my mom's mind about this whole thing because she panicked. I mean, she damn near disowned me. It was almost like I was playing the last thing she imagined in her mind. She thought I was capable of a lot of things. And now I called her and like, hey, Mom, I know you just literally spent your life savings to send me here to do this thing. But I'm going to just go do my own thing, you know? And she's like thousands of miles away from me to where she can't even smack me. She can't smack me. So I'm just like, yeah. And secondly, around that time, I had just like moved from I say moved like it was actually, I just disappeared from my aunt's place. And literally she got that call. And then a couple months later, she gets, oh yeah, I'm dropping out of school.
Were you listening to like hard rock music on the side of the highway or something? Or did you like...
At that point, she felt I was going with bad gang and I'm probably mixed up with some bad people. That's why I'm making all these decisions. But actually on the flight here, because it was a long flight, I think my total flight time was like 23 hours with a 1 hour, 2 hour layover. So majority of it was actually just sitting down on the plane, 16-year-old not knowing what to do. My mom doesn't know this, but I was actually addicted to gambling at that point. Because I was doing a lot of sport betting and all that. That was where, it's so deep. I was taking, because like I said, I had access to my mom's account. So I heard I was moving out. I wanted to take my friends out partying. I wanted to feel like the guy. Like I was like, screw the tutorial center she was taking me to. Because as God will have it, I didn't get into university immediately after. And I always go back to that thing. It's like, then I was so nervous about it. I felt like a failure. Like, damn, all my friends are starting school. But if I had gotten admission, my mom would have told me to wait till I graduated to come here.
Yeah, true.
So it didn't happen. All my friends were in school, and I felt like, and like a few months later, my cousin just came back and was like, hey, why don't send him to the US? I have this agent that can process the whole thing, and literally started. So up until I graduated, I didn't think I was coming to the US.
And then it switched.
And just because of the fact that I couldn't get into the university, that's why we started planning for this.
And when did the gambling start?
So the gambling started during that year. I'm at home, everybody's in school. I don't really have anything doing. So I'm just going out, spending money.
So you were seeking risk, but in a way that didn't have control.
Yes. You know, I always wanted to make money because I knew the situation. I started becoming more aware of the situation my mom was in, and like, this woman doesn't really got it like the way she's trying to.
When you're like you can start seeing where
I started really realizing what is going on at home, and I'm just like, yeah, she doesn't really have the money that she's spending on us, and there's 3 of us that she's sending to university pretty soon. I got to make money somehow.
Yeah.
And in school, it was cool because I could just sell stuff to my friends. Like I was my
iPhone charger.
Yeah, guy. iPhone charger. Hey, you need anything from the store? Get it. Go meet Femi. Femi will get it for you. We'll probably mark it up, but he'll get the product for you.
Yeah.
So I was the product guy.
So you were a service guy.
Yeah.
Quick.
Anything you need, I'm the middleman of the whole school.
And that probably stressed mom out.
Yeah, because she's getting school calls from school. Like, what else is Femi involved with? And she, I was the tech savvy one of the house. So I had access to all of her accounts. I started gambling. There was no other opportunities to make money because I'm just at home. I'm not in uni, so I can't really sell anything there. So I started like taking money from her account and gambling it, and then I'll lose the money, and then I'll be like, oh, let me just take some more, and then when I make money off, I'll return it and still have some, and that led to like me almost clearing up the entire. I didn't know the account I was spending from was her savings account for me to travel.
Wow. Okay.
So I was spending that money, so that's why I was like, I was really shocked for her still deciding like, you know what, I'm still gonna send it because I was like. If she had told me,
well, she was probably, I better do it before next week.
You're gonna
get back the rest of it.
And the only time she found out was when they requested her bank statements to show that she could afford to, sustain me here at least for my first year.
Who is DraftKings?
And she's like, who is this withdrawals? Who's making this transfer? Who's buying this data plan? And she just waited for me at the dining table. I still remember that day. Came back from tutorial, and she's just like. Why would you do this?
You walked in and you knew.
When she called me on the phone, immediately from her voice, I knew like,
she sounded
fuck.
Like FBI.
Yeah.
Femi, I'll see you shortly.
Yes. And she was just like, when are you getting home? I'm like, she's never called me to ask me when I'm getting home in the middle of the day. I'm like, she found out. And I just got in. She got mad. She couldn't even hit me. She was just like, I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you.
She gave you that I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed in you. So during the flight, to get back to the point, during the flight, I just started thinking, I was like, this is the way I want my life to go. Like, hey, this is a new shot at like everything, literally. Like, nobody knows me here. I can really do whatever here and recreate this idea of what my mom had. I just wanted to please my mom. That was just my goal here.
You were in emotional debt.
Yes.
You owed her back.
I owed her back in some type of way. So imagine what it was like calling her and just telling her like, hey, mom, I know your sister is in Nigeria right now, but just kind of left her house, and I don't think I'm coming back there. I don't have a job.
Where was this at?
So I used to stay in Macedonia, Ohio.
And so when you left, was it just call a friend, I'll stay on the couch, or was it?
So I had this job at the restaurant. Mm-hmm. I was frustrated one day because I really wanted to go out. It was still, I didn't know anywhere because they were quite strict, so I couldn't really go around. I didn't have the flexibility I had back in Nigeria.
Was it just go to work, go home?
Yeah, go to school, go to work, go home. Go to school, go to work, go home. And I didn't know anything, so I was like, I really wanted to go out. And one day, I think I wanted to go to the movies with my then girlfriend, and they were like, no, I had to call my aunt who was in Nigeria and get permission. And I'm just like, bro, what the hell? I'm 18.
Yeah, you're
I'm like, bro, like, what are you talking about? To go to the movies? And I was just like, yeah, that's my last straw. Took my bags, left early in the morning because I heard like one of my one of the employees at that restaurant was looking for a roommate. I don't know this guy. I never even worked a shift with this guy. So he could have been a killer for all I care, but I was just like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have the money for the rent. But I was in this program at Tri-C that if I finished that program, they were going to give me $2,500. So I made my whole plan based off of that $2,500. I was like, okay, game plan. $2,500 comes in. My share of the rent is $500. The remaining $2,500, I'll take $1,500 and buy a car of some kind.
Vehicle.
Vehicle. You have 4 wheels. You can start up.
That's all you
done.
need.
You know, and that's what I made the plans of. But as God will have it, the $2,500 came in a couple weeks late, and I had to beg this guy, hey, just cover rent. I promise you I have it. He's like, what the hell? You know, I don't know you. I'm like, well, we work at the same place. When they pay us, I'll pay you, you know. And he got me another job. So I was working 2 restaurant jobs and started really just figuring out life from there. And then realized I didn't like roommates because I don't like cleaning up.
And were you talking to your mom in this point at all, or no? Was there a period
so
of
for
like
the
you had it turned off?
for that initial period, we didn't talk for like I think 2 months or 3 months straight, and you know, going from talking to my mom damn near every week to just like cold shoulders all over again, like Nigeria, and I was just like, I mean, I got to do what I had to do, and I made sure immediately I got out, I signed the lease. So I was like, hey mom, it's not like Nigeria. I can't just up and say, hey, I don't want this lease anymore. I'm responsible for it, so I might as well stay. And she hated it. My uncle and auntie weren't talking to me, so I was really just on my own in the U.S. But
so yeah, why did you not take it some, let's call it sketchy route and do something risky? Because at this point, let's face it, family's fully abandoned, or for the time being, fully abandoned. You are fully on your own.
Yeah.
Why did you think, okay, now I'm going to do something to make my life better?
So then I was still even working at the restaurant. So I was hearing a little bit about real estate, but I was doing more Forex and e-commerce, and I was building websites for some people back in that. I was just doing whatever could make money at that point. I just heard about the risk. And like I said, I made a promise to myself on the flight, and I was like, I was really going to exhaust every option to make it legally before I try some maybe sketchy things.
It's always there.
You know, I'm like, that's always a backup option. You can always figure that out. But actually try to do something reasonable. Then around when I dropped out and I was fully just working alone, that was when I started like venturing into real estate because my friend brought it up. And yeah, I don't know. But at some point too, I almost made that misstep back into that life because shit was very tough. But I just really thought back again. I was just like, man, I don't want this woman to see. Like I said, I still felt like I had this emotional debt to pay my mom. So I'm like, the last thing I want her to hear again, now that she started getting, you know, okay with me being on my own, is hear that you're into some sketchy stuff. And then what if they kick you back? Now you have to go back with your hand in your face back to Nigeria.
Make up some crazy stories.
Yeah, because I almost ventured in. I was just like, how much? I was trying to like ask the people doing that, like, how much do you really make off of this stuff? And I'm just, oh, you only get like 10%. I'm like, so I risk my whole freedom here to make like 10% of the cut? Like, yeah, y'all can have that. It's too much risk. Yeah, and I'm just like, I might as well take that risk into what I'm already doing. It's risk anyways, and you love risk, so.
Yeah, no one's going to break into your house at night if you're a week behind on a flight.
You know? It was just having conversations of it. I was like deleting chats, and I'm like, I don't want to drop my phone anywhere, and somebody mistakenly picks it up and thinks like I'm doing. I was just like, you know what? Too much emotion, too much just emotional fluctuations.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, no, I just stick to this.
And like we both know Beyond, who we saw at that networking event last weekend.
Yeah.
Like he said, he's like, if you can hustle, it doesn't have to be drugs. Like
Yes.
do it with something higher ticket.
Yes, and that's the way I was just thinking about it. It was just too much risk for so much little money. And then I'm like, the main thing that was important was like, I couldn't tell my family or share the advice or share knowledge with people. I had to hide what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not on purpose. I want to come here. I want to show my sisters. I want to show my cousins that
it has to check multiple boxes.
Yeah. And I'm just like, a lot of the boxes are not checking. I'm risking my freedom. I'm risking my stay in the U.S. I'm risking my accounts. I'm risking, it's like, yeah.
Weird conversations.
Weird conversations. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, hey, you know what? It's not worth the risk. You know, at least with real estate, even if I'm failing at it, I can still have a conversation with somebody about what I'm doing.
And there's an actual incentive for someone to help you out. Like
Exactly.
they win via helping you out. Whereas, in a sketchy, whether you're selling drugs or just doing crazy work on the side, like nobody's
going to want to help me. I can't even bring it up to anybody.
And they actually see it as Shark Time because they go, oh, he's down on his luck.
Yep.
Pounds.
So there was just a lot of things that were just, I was just like, yeah, nah. And my most important thing, like I said at that time, was I just wanted my mom to feel proud of me again, to be honest. That was all that was really in my head. I think to some extent, even till now, I just wanted her to see like, okay, I'm happy I made that gamble because
Yeah.
it was a straight up gamble sending me here. And funny thing, I have to put this. The last game I played before I left Nigeria, won. I was on the flight and I checked it and I won that ticket. I was like, all this for a whole year straight, I gambled and I didn't win one single game. The day I'm flying out of the country and I can't even spend the money, I win that ticket. I had to give the money to my friend because I couldn't even cash it out.
It was a sign.
Yeah, that's what I took as a sign. I was like, yeah, it just wasn't for me because if I had won any game back then, I would have more reasons to continue.
And then you're just in the cycle.
Yeah.
So how did you, as real estate started going well, decide, okay, I'm not just gonna be Femi the worker, but like you obviously built a team out, right? So you started seeing that there can be multiple people that join this business you've created.
Yeah. So actually I tried doing drywall. I'm sorry to the person that hired me off of Angie List and I did your bathroom ceiling. I'm so sorry. I needed money.
That'll be a good reel.
I was YouTubing how to do drywall on my way to actually do the job. It was that bad. I'm so sorry if you actually see this, because I was just like, oh yeah, it's drying. I'll be back tomorrow to sand it down and put it, and I just never came back. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Maybe they're still waiting.
Maybe, who knows? But they were a very nice couple. And that day I just learned that, like, okay, yeah, I really have no interest for actually doing the actual work. I work better with my brain and figuring out, like I said, even back in Nigeria, I never really made any product. I was just the middleman. I knew where to find product. I knew how to find a starving audience and find somebody who had the product and just connect the two.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, I see a lot of people's businesses, and one that was fascinating about yours up front is like how the systems all plug into each other.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's a lot of little businesses. Sometimes I even like, why do I even, like, can I just pick one and just really go on? But it's just like a crazy way of just pulling a bunch of resources because I had to be resourceful. I didn't have resources, so I had to be resourceful, and starting off my journey. Oh, you don't know how to cold call? Well, find somebody who knows how to cold call and can find deals, but just plug him. Then I didn't even know how to do this. And so when I met my now wife who was getting into real estate, she was doing dispositions. She had a partner. So she was doing dispositions. I was trying to learn, but the first thing I learned was how to analyze deals. So I started figuring out, like, you guys are selling your deals at a huge discount. I mean, give the investor a discount, but come on, make some money for yourself. $1,000 here, $1,500, $3,000, they'll split. And I'm like, you're splitting this money.
Now let's pause real quick. If anyone in Nigeria is listening, how crazy does that statement sound?
It's crazy already, even, sometimes.
Even in America.
Even in America, the amount of money that's on the line. Like now, I even think about my life, like, bro, I don't know. It's like, I can't. When some people tell me how much they're making per hour, I'm just like,
yeah, for everyone watching. Okay, so we understand that whether you're in Nigeria or in America, to make $3,000 from a couple phone calls is awesome. But Femi and I are in these groups where people will complain that they only made $100K this month.
Yeah.
So when you hear people complain like that,
it just shifts your complete perspective. Just gets messed up.
As much as you might get jealous or angry, you now realize other people make that money.
Make that money. So that was the thing for me. She was making that amount, but then she started adding me into group chats, started joining group chats. I'm like seeing people make $8,000, $10,000 off of their assignment fees. And I'm just like, hey, just a random suggestion. I know you guys are more so the experts. I'm just new in this game. But like from my analysis, shifting the laptop, you have it under contract. All these properties in this area are sold for this amount. So why not just tell the buyers that you want this amount? Because they develop that pride and like they'll tell this buyer this amount and he wouldn't argue, would just take it. Like, hi.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, like why they're just taking it because you could ask this much. And they did the first one, they made 8,000 instead of 3. They did the next one, they made 10,000 instead of 5. So I was like, okay, I think I know something about something here.
What was the first deal, if you were to look back, where you made enough money that you were like, holy cow, like I can call my mom and feel proud?
What was the first? I think it was like my first flip because, like I said, I was being the middleman. So there's still other parties. I was always just playing this middleman role. And even when I got into it, I was telling them, because I hated cold calling right out the gate. I was like, don't like. I just feel like I'm disturbing these people,
Yeah.
like, and I didn't like doing it. But also disposition, I didn't feel I had that conflict in me. Like I didn't know enough to talk to a buyer.
Yeah, that if they asked you a tough
Yeah,
question.
like I didn't know what to respond. So I always let my girl do that instead. And I just played that middle role. But then when I eventually did my first flip, because I think we were even having a little issue back then, she was just like, I just called her like, hey, you know what? I've always told you, like, I might not even do wholesale. I might just jump straight to flipping. I think I have an opportunity here. My very good friend Soraya had that deal. So I was like, at least she'll be okay with me not turning in EMD on time while I'm still figuring out how to pull everything. And next thing I know, I closed on the property. And I was just like, I had to call my mom. Like, hey, mom, like, technically I own this house in the US right now.
And what was her thought?
She was just like, it was just unbelievable, because my mom used to do a little real estate stuff back home, buy a land, leave it for like a couple years, and then eventually develop it as time goes on. And they still felt it was risky. Hey, I know it's going well, but still go back to school whenever you save up some money. That was always her response, And then I think that was more so a confirmation for me that like, oh, I really do not have to go back to school. I really do not. And I felt I think she felt that confidence now, because sometimes when I would have conversation with her about being entrepreneurial, it was still from this, he might not work. I'm just taking this stupid risk. And she's just like, why are you taking this risk? Go back to school. But for the first time, I was able to tell her like, hey, Ma, I think I understand what I'm doing right now.
And I think something that's crazy is I hear you say that is, and I don't have kids yet, like you can speak to it, but I am now realizing that until you take some action, like why would they believe in you? Because I'm thinking about it now from the other side. Like if I were the parent, my kid's like, Dad, I'm starting this business. I'd be like, pick up the phone right now. Or I would say some crazy shit like go to something that I know doesn't serve you.
Yep.
But at least you're gonna.
At least you're gonna make money. That's my mom's idea was like, hey, look, I know you really want to do this entrepreneur and make me proud shit, but like put it on pause for right now. Go to school. The goal was for me to switch from IT since I don't like IT anymore and do nursing. At least everybody will get a shot with nursing. And I'm like, I don't want to give people injections. I don't want to clean up after somebody, because that was the whole loophole. Like, okay, coming through being like a nursing assistant and then, somehow fall in love with I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'd rather drive for Lyft and do that
at least
instead.
Talk to people.
Yeah. So for her, she just never really understood it until that moment where I bought that house, and she was just like, oh shit, like this dude is not playing. He is gonna go all in at this stuff. And then after that, it started becoming little calls like, oh, how's your business going? Is everything going good? And I was like, yeah, now she's bought in.
Yeah.
Now
That's the
she's
thing.
invested.
It's hard for a lot of people to hear that even like your closest friends, siblings, and parents they're not going to support you. They're actually going to probably be your first haters.
Yeah.
Like everyone thinks it's the internet or it's some crazy. No, it's the people who you grew up with that saw you every day.
And, don't take it wrong, if whoever is in, because they're hating from to them, that is, they feel like they're being your greatest supporters. That's what I had to reconcile in my mind. Like, my mom is not hating. She feels like she's supporting me the best way she knows how, which is, hey, remind me to stop taking some stupid risk and just actually, stop being selfish. At some point, they even called me selfish. Like, hey, at least if not for yourself, for us, like, get a good job so you can support back home. And I'm just like, I'm actually playing a way bigger game. It just takes a longer time to show results. But sometimes I'll just say okay on the phone. Hey, I'll start looking into which schools, but just never get around to it. I think eventually they just got the message of like, hey, it's 2 years now. This guy's not going back.
Yeah, and it was the same with my parents because I basically was like, I think I posed it as a break. I was like, I'm going to take a break from this.
That was me.
And then after a little bit of time, I like started getting clients. We started getting busy. Yeah. And then people would ask me questions of like, are you going back? And I would give them the craziest look. I'd be like,
back?
Because what was funny is like I realized that even what I told people wasn't accurate to what I did. I think I told you off camera. Like I literally changed my password to my Kent email, looked the other way, hit Command C, Command V, and logged myself out for good. So that if I had to go back to college, it was going to be at least 3 hours of like being on the line with the school.
Trying to figure out your password.
Yeah, because I was like, and I know I won't do that. So I had to like push myself out, like literally from the system where I do my homework.
Yeah.
And then, a week or two goes by. I'm getting a call from the professor. you're not doing your homework. And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't believe I just took this call right now. And so there's like those little moments where you know that like you're going a different route.
Yeah.
And I even took a sales job, crazy enough. And I showed up day one in a suit. And I remember I looked in the mirror and it was so weird. I like saw my dad from when I was a kid,
Wow.
unhappy to go to his corporate job.
Wow.
And so I walked in, didn't even go into the sales meeting room where I was supposed to start my job, went right into the owner's office.
Wow.
And was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to take this job. Like, I need to start a business right now, and I know this is messed up. I know we negotiated the pay plan and everything, and I don't remember his name, but I do want to shout him out. He literally was like, dude, nobody comes in here with that kind of confidence. He's like, I did the same thing. He's like, you'll do well, and then I left. So
That's
there are
great.
going to be these moments where, yeah, like you have no one supporting you.
Yeah.
There's really no data either.
Yeah, support what you're trying to do. That's the thing. Like, my family here and there have a couple rentals and everything, but nobody was doing real estate as a business. You know, it was this thing the way you work your job, you save up some money, then you invest it, or you buy your first rental, then you buy your next one. I was doing this full time, so it didn't make sense to anybody. Like, what is anyone doing? What is being do? You're not a realtor, but you're doing real
I
estate.
think this is a key point. So, if, like, for anyone listening out of state, this is also going to kind of plug how you can work with Femi. Like, we live in a market where you can buy a house, let's say today, in 3 months, if you just renovate it, it's not like it's going to go up a little bit in price.
It's going to go up a lot bit, a lot bit in price.
So,
you know?
for anyone who doesn't understand that, explain what it actually is that your company does from like a very like third grade level.
Okay, from third grade level, we find very, very poorly kept houses. We fix them up. They're now worth a lot more money than what we bought it for, and then we resell it. And what I started understanding in the market is like, yeah, I can make more money probably selling to a homeowner, but I can build a consistent business selling to an investor, because somebody who's buying a rental property is in it for a long term, wants to buy more.
Yep.
A homeowner,
every 7 to 10
years. 7 to 10 years, I'm always going to be looking for a client, and then I always have to play to their taste. With investors, I can play more of this consultant role. So no knowledge is lost, you know? No relationship is lost. If I sell you this property, as long as I do my own part well, chances are you're going to call me. When your mom wants to get into investing, you're going to call Femi. When your friend wants to get into investing, you're going to call Femi. So now from one relationship, I potentially might have 5 longtime clients.
And a lot of people don't realize in Cleveland, people in America don't own America. Like, this is a huge thing that, like, it hurts. If you grew up here, that statement hurts. But take it from a guy who's not from here.
Yeah.
Like, there is a lot of money from Israel. There is a lot of money from Australia. A lot of other major continents, they take all their money and they invest it here because what Femi just talked about, they know that.
Yeah. And, you know, it always blew my mind when I started getting into this. And I'm just like, wait, so, like, the whole country is not doing this? Like, I don't have money. You know, I always, like I said, being resourceful. You either have resources or you're being resourceful. You know, whatever you have, you can leverage it into real estate. That's the crazy part about this country. It's just like people just fail to understand that to some extent. It's just like anybody off of the street. Yeah, I know, everybody has this life challenge. I just told you guys all of my challenges that were stacked up against me. But like, anybody literally could start investing.
So let me ask you this, because I know there are going to be a lot of people that fit this demographic that watch it. If someone grew up in America, went to high school, went to college, they don't have a lot of debt on their head, and they're working at a corporation they hate, but they go, real estate's too risky. What do you have to say to that person?
It's all risky. The job you're at is risky. They can call you up tomorrow and let you know you're fired. I literally was speaking to somebody from Houston last week that, funny enough, I sold this property that one of my clients didn't want to keep because he felt renovating the house was too risky because he thought he was going to have the tenants forever and they suddenly left and now he has all this rehab. Mind you, I found him 4 houses for $115,000, 4 single families. I told him, dude, I know you probably don't like me right now because you thought, you bought these properties and tenants are going to stay, but don't sell these houses. I can't even find those inventory right now. You bought it at the lowest of the low. It's like, no, and now you sold it. And funny enough, the other person who bought it from me was a Nigerian in Houston, just starting this real estate journey. So I met up with him, he showed me the house. I wasn't trying to be petty, but I just took videos and I was like, oh, look at the house you just sold. Look at what this person did with the house. And I'm like, the gap, I found a agent, the agent found a wholesaler, like so many people got paid from that transaction and this other person still bought it and he's about to make another couple $1,000s from that same property. That's how low you bought it.
Yeah.
You know, so there's just so much. If you take it as risk, yes, there's risk in everything that you do. Driving on the highway is risk. You know, getting on the flights 24 hours from my country to the U.S. was a risk. Plane could have blown up. I don't know. A lot of stuff.
And when people are always worried about like what's the worst that could happen, like I'm sure you could speak to it, I can speak to it. Like there are days where you spend money on something and then you lose money on something.
Yep.
Like I remember my first time, like, and it wasn't even a lot, but it was $2,000 at the time. I paid some guy in a mastermind to build a website for me. Well, a week goes by, no website. 2 weeks goes by, no website. And so I'm like, I should at least email the guy. And then Google goes, oh, this email is not findable. And I'm like, okay. So he's also not showing up to mastermind calls. Go to his Facebook. It wasn't even there. So now I'm calling Chase. I'm saying, hey, like I paid $2,000 for this thing I didn't get. And they said, well, you have to wait at least 30 days. A week later, he's back on Facebook. I hit him up and I'm like, hey man, like, you know, I've heard from you, my website. And he goes, yeah, man, I'm just kind of pissed at the business world. I lost all my clients and I work in the oil fields now. And as much as, yeah, it is funny now, but like I remember in that moment, I was like pissed off.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to drive to Alaska to like go get this guy, get my $2,000. But you have to realize like it's just, you get to a point where you laughed it off.
Yeah.
Because no one in your family's at risk. You can always, if you've learned correctly what you're doing and everything's not a gamble, you can make the money back.
Yeah. And I mean, last year was like a very difficult year for me. You know, I'm coming from telling my mom all this. Hey, you know, my first year in this real estate stuff, I bought 3 houses, Mom. No money out of my pocket. I'm the guy. Got a new car, got my apartment, got a girl, on top of the world. And literally everything just started crashing right back. It was like, took me to this peak and then showed me how fast you could lose everything. And looking back now, I can laugh about these things and talk about it, but like I was in a dark place.
Yeah.
I was in a very dark place because a lot of people were giving me opportunities based off of me. You know, hey, Femi, you're hungry. Here's my money. Go buy this house. Do your thing, man. I'm rooting for you. And I couldn't even call anybody back and just let them know, like, hey, look, I probably would have to owe you for the next couple years because not only did I just lose your money, like, but this is what I do full time. And I'm not in a mental space to even sell another property because I'm just like, what the hell did I do? Why did I do this? Because, you know, I did my first flip, rapidly bought the next one, bought a third one. And I was like, there's no way I can lose. But the first property, I got the same contractor, paid him deposit to do both first 2 houses I bought. He even exposed himself to me that he's using some of my money to float his other projects. Then he suddenly disappeared. I found one of his guys that was like, hey, yeah, he also hasn't paid me, by the way. Do you have any jobs by any chance? I'm like, well, if me and you can somehow finish this house, because I have lenders calling my phone every day asking about their money. No, funny enough, the lenders weren't calling at this point. I just knew I could see what was coming. Like, I have no clue how to fix this house. I don't know how to find another contractor. I felt so ashamed that he didn't even allow me. And now I look back at it and I'm like, dude, you could have simply just asked anybody for some referrals.
Quick video. Hey, need a contractor.
Hey, I need a contractor in a Facebook group, and boom, would have had a bunch of people. But I built it as this mountain that I couldn't climb. And I was just feeling sorry for myself. The money was depleting. I had to pay my own expenses, plus pay contractors every week. And I was almost $100,000 in debt.
So what got you out?
What got me out? I was trying so hard to like hide it and act like everything was okay. You know, still going out to parties, hanging out with my friends. And I just had to sit myself down at one point. I think where it happened was finally got one of the projects, you know, done. And the wire came, the check came. It was like, I think $78,000. I was just looking at that check for a long time, like $78,000 that could be mine. But I literally had to deposit this and wire it right back out to a lender.
Yep.
And I was just like, I can learn 2 things from this. I can take this as like a reason why I shouldn't continue, or this check could actually be mine one day that I'm actually depositing in my own account if I just figure out a way to keep going.
Yeah.
Because you've done it. Yeah, you made all this mistake, but the house is sold. You got the house to the finish line.
And you also learned, it's like, and this is the big thing, like from watching, it's not like you lose all your memories
yes.
later.
Yes, you live with these memories. You live with all the experiences. You live with all the things not to do again. And it's just about, do you want to get up or do you just want to lay in dirt? And I'm just like, how much more in debt can I go? Nobody's about to lend me any money with all of this debt. So the
I mean,
only
hey,
way
dude, you are in America, so they might.
hey, you know what? You just might find somebody crazy enough to. But I was just like, there's not really anywhere lower I can go. But now I have all this knowledge, so there's a lot more higher that I could go. And I just decided to just leverage everything I learned and really just start putting in grunt effort like I did in the beginning. Started project managing. Project management led to partnerships with people, led to me meeting great people like you, a lot of other colleagues that I've met, just learning deeper about the industry. And it allowed me, more importantly, craft a path for myself, like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? This is what I want to do. And
I think one of the craziest conversations we had was like our second video day. And I just remember I was like asking a little bit about strategy, and it turned
yeah,
into like this hour and a half talk. And I think the big thing I saw in you was like, it wasn't even like you didn't have your plan. Like that was interesting in hindsight. Like you just, I think we're still in a little bit of that pity party.
yeah, I wasn't a lot bit of that pity party. What you saw was just a
Yeah,
fraction
maybe,
that I
yeah.
was comfortable sharing with you. I was still in a lot bit of that pity party. And in the last couple months is where that whole confidence of like, I can actually pull this thing off, because you're actually doing it. I think I came to the realization that like the goal that I was still thinking I'm writing a plan for, I was actually like doing it. And I'm like, what is wrong with you, bro? Like you're still trying to think about how can I get myself out of this, but like
You
you're
already were,
you're
yeah.
already climbing the ladder out of it. You're already doing it. You're already making those connections. So really, just continue doing what you're doing and get out of your own head and get out of your own way. Like things that I feel like I could have done in a week would take me 3 months just to get myself mentally prepared. And all of this in the mirror, you can do it. And
Like
watch.
a funny one that for everyone listening, one of the first long form videos I told Femi to make was like, talk about your biggest fuck up. And you had told me before you even met me that you had tried to film that how many times?
About 3 to 5 times, and I've deleted every video. I'll record it, I'll watch it back, and I'm just like, nah, just delete it. Never mind.
So and then I pushed you to do it, and you did film the video. And then how quickly after that did you have another private money lender?
Like the next week or so, or 2 weeks after that, you introduced me to Steve. Shout out to Steve, by the way. And he was just like, yeah, because he came and saw one of the projects I was doing with my partners, and he's just like, you're doing it. Like, so it was like, so what needs to change here? And I sat down, and I was like, literally nothing. Literally nothing.
He
I'm
said
already
you might have a
closing.
few extra cabinets, I heard.
Yeah, just like one. Yeah, I had to put the
He's a 5 cabinet guy.
hang the cabinets in and put some knobs on them. But I'm saying in the perspective of like, what else do I need within my team to like actually pull off what I'm saying I want to pull off? And I realized like I'd actually, from doing it for somebody else, I'd built my whole team. I'd understood the strategy. I'm actually building the relationships. I'm building all these experiences that hard money lenders would need. I was like, yeah, nothing. It's like, yeah, so just save up from this partnership, put your money down, do your next project, and just build from one by one, or continue scaling with these guys and see where it goes. And I'm just like, wow, like, yeah, I've been in my head for a long time. And another time that he showed up for me was actually when I lost all of that money last year. And like for like 3 months, I was just doing nothing but just rolling around in bed, feeling sorry for myself, bro. Couldn't get myself physically to get out the house and do anything.
Really?
I was just so obsessed in the mess that I created for myself, just apologizing to these people every day, trying to think of other things that I should do rather than just doing what I'm doing, continue doing what I'm doing. Until one day, like I then wholesaled one deal because I really needed to pay my bills, and like a friend brought a deal to me and I found a buyer for it. And I was just like, you could have been doing this the past 3 months and never been worried about paying rent.
Any of it, yeah.
Like all this interest is accumulating, all this, more financial. My credit cards are all maxed out now because I've just been living off of them. And I was like, I could have just been doing this all this months ago. And that's why I just realized, like, I just have that brain where I over obsess about stuff sometimes. And it's just now I just try to shorten that time period. Like, it's okay to feel sorry for yourself, but just shorten that time clock to maybe a day or two or a week, whatever feels comfortable.
So for anyone that's maybe starting a business, has one, or wants to one day, like what advice can you give them in hindsight? Because they're all going to hit that wall. Like,
Yeah.
I hit one probably around December where I don't know what it was, but there were a couple bad clients I worked with. I took way too much responsibility for it,
Yeah.
pity partied. But
Yeah.
then I just quickly realized that, yeah, it's a new year. I can start whenever I want. So out of all that shit you went through, like, what would you give others advice about?
Man, I'll say it's like one thing that we mentioned, just understanding that like these experiences never leave you. Never. So, and I think a lot of people, you start the new year and you write all this new stuff that you wanted to do, but nobody listened to, I can't remember what podcast, but shout out to where I heard that from. But like, it's like, how many of you really sit back in the new year and actually go back on your previous year and figure out what did I actually learn? Not, coming talking to your friend, oh, I learned a lot last year. It's like, okay, but what? Person was like, actually, like, what did you learn?
So for you, would you say the biggest one is like no more sitting in the sorry?
Yeah, no more sitting in the shower, no more playing those songs and, crying to
All right, you
people
got to
for
call
help.
yourself out. Were you playing the sad tunes?
Yeah, I was playing the sad songs in the shower.
No.
I was watching the podcast of like, oh, you are something. You get yourself, all those stuff. Just going back to like almost beginning. And I had to snap myself out of it. Like, you're not starting all over. You're just continuing your journey.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you fell down, but like, what are you going to do now? Like, just sit there, or you going to push the car and figure out the next tire shop to put a new tire on it and just keep going? Just imagine you break down in the middle of the road and you just sit in your car. You don't call AAA. You don't do nothing. You just sit in your car like, damn, I got a busted tire.
Yeah.
You don't even come, you don't even signal for a car to stop by. You just sit there in the car and just like, damn, I really blew my tire.
I never thought about that way. Yeah.
That's what I realized like I was
I've done that
doing.
a few times. I've sat in the car.
Yeah. And you just like, yeah, the tire really is busted. If only something could happen. You don't push it. You don't call nobody. You don't ask for help. And then I realized that like, whatever thing I run into, like there's a lot more things you can do. And the faster I figure that out. So if you're in that spot with your business, with whatever you're doing, there is something to do. And the faster you figure out what is that next step you need to take, the better for you. Yeah. And sometimes, I know everybody's like, oh, think about the next step you make. But sometimes just taking a step is way better than figuring out how that step connects to this grand vision.
Yeah, because a lot of people get paralyzed. It happens at scale. And I guess how do you plan moving forward? Because obviously, so you had this very, I would call it triumphant journey, getting here and getting started.
Yeah.
How do you avoid raising your son to not be the spoiled kid who thinks, Dad always complains it was hard? Because you're getting to a real risk where, if you keep on the path you're on, he's going to have an easier childhood. Yeah. He's not going to have the same risk profile.
Man, I never thought I would be thinking about all of those things this early. I've been thinking about it a lot, just even thinking about what school district I want to actually like grow in. It's weird. It's weird thinking about all these things. And mind you guys, I'm still pretty young. But I don't know, man. I feel like that's one of the things to where I've also learned that like sometimes you gotta have life because he's still far away from making all of those decisions. And I don't know who I'm gonna be in the next 10 years. I don't even know what I'm gonna be doing next 10 years, and I just hope that like at the point that I'm at that, like I just want him to be able to experience life from his own perspective, not live life through my own perspective. Because the same way now I'm realizing a lot of things my parents were telling me were from their own perspective, and they were not exactly wrong. It's just
their lens.
Yeah, it's just their lens and their own experiences in life. And I just want to be able to push him to do whatever he does, just make sure like you can commit to it and you can be consistent at it. And I want to make sure like he understands it's okay to pivot sometimes. Yeah. It's not okay for you to just completely start and stop a bunch of different things. Yeah. Set up a goal for yourself. Figure out the route that you're going to follow. But it's okay if sometimes you got to get off the freeway and take the streets sometimes and then come back on the freeway. It's not okay for you to now suddenly, oh, I'm going to California. Oh, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to Idaho instead. Oh, you know what? Never mind, actually.
And I think that's something that probably for anyone listening, that is the hardest part about being a business owner, is because the only people who are ever going to rationally entertain the pivot conversations are other business owners. Yes. Anyone else is going to hear it as like the crazy girl who's like, I need to get 10 cats. Like that's what they hear it as. Yep. But what you're actually saying in your head is like, I'm doing something. I don't think it's working out as well as it should. I need to reassess what it does.
What it does. Yep. And it's just really learning from all the experience, giving your time, like you hear about all these business owners that, especially now with social media, I feel like it's put a lot of pressure now on entrepreneurs to where you feel like you have to figure it out in 2 years or in 3 years.
Yeah.
And, thankfully I have a great friend, Azim. Shout out to Azim. He really just made me understand what it is to think of like 5-year increments, like next 5 years. Where do I want to be in 5 years? Now, what you're going to do every week or every day leading up to 5 years would change. But the goal in 5 years can still remain the same.
Yeah.
Right? I might decide like, I want to do real estate. I want to be developing in the next 5 years. That's one of my personal goals.
Yeah.
But I might start off project managing. But I might decide project managing, the return based off of the time I have to involve in doesn't make sense. Let me flip instead. Or I might decide instead of doing residentials, let me do multifamilies. But the goal can still lead to developing. And that's all I need to keep my eyesight on. Or through doing that, it's okay if I realize, actually, I love flipping multifamily so much that my next goal is to launch a fund. But not now I want to leave real estate altogether. And now I want to actually be a caterer.
That's where it gets sketchy.
That's where it starts to get really sketchy, or like those people that will come to you and like, oh, I want to start a business in real estate. Oh, no, you know what? I think I'll be a mechanic instead. It's like they're unrelated.
Yeah.
It's okay to go in different parts or like find a segue within the same industry or figure out what is your own 10,000 view.
Yeah, like for me, I remember if you would have talked to me this time a year ago and you're like, Alex, I want to go make some videos at some of these houses, I'd have been like, yeah, I don't show up. You'd be like, what? And it was a real thing. It literally took Grant Cardone's social media manager being like, why do you not go direct people? And I was like, I was stuck in an identity.
Yeah.
It was like, no, I just do strategy. And he's like, you can do that and direct. And it was crazy because it was this thing where I had a defined business and I got stuck in it. It was just like people get stuck in a job. You can create that own demon for yourself.
Yep. Yeah, and you're your own worst enemies. Your mind is really your own worst enemy, to be honest, because sometimes you box yourself in your capabilities. And I know it's very cliche right now to say, and I'm speaking to the audience right now, like it's very cliche to say sometimes like, oh yeah, you can do everything. You can do everything, but you can't do everything at once.
Yeah.
So I really had to get myself to like, hey, pick one thing. It could just be one industry. It doesn't even have to be one business within that industry. Because within real estate, trust me, guys, on a single transaction, the amount of people that get paid from one transaction, just even closing one leg of the transaction, is a lot.
I mean, if you do a whole flip, there's going to be a crew of, let's say, roughly 10.
Yeah.
If you want to just talk paperwork, there's probably another 10 to 12.
So let me even roughly count it out. There's the wholesaler that brings me the deal. There's my inspector that goes out to inspect the deal. There's the appraiser that appraises it for my lender. There's my lender. There's a title company. Out of the title company, there's the escrow officer within there. There's probably the notary that comes out for me to sign the paperwork. There's the recorder at the city's office. There's a city actually collecting taxes. Then you've closed that first leg. Now you're doing your rehab. There's my roofer. There's my electrician. There's my plumber. All these people that have to get paid first before I finally get a check. And even that, Uncle Sam is still going to get a piece of mine.
Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam, don't we hate that last guy, huh? But there's just so many people. So that's just in the real estate industry. So within whatever you're doing, there's probably so many different ways that you can skin that pie. But one thing that I've tried to just I know a lot of people have heard this saying, but it's really true, especially in the real estate industry. 100%, 20% of a watermelon is better than 100% of a grape. And I've really started to understand that like the same effort it takes me to do this single family flip is probably what it's going to take me to develop 4 townhouses. Same amount of work. Not the one swinging the hammer. Definitely not putting no roof on no house.
Yeah.
Last week, for the first time, I climbed on top of a roof in the U.S. And I was like, damn, this feels nice. But you all go back to what you're doing. Let me get back down. And it's like, the same amount of effort, the same amount of pitching private monies, the same amount of joining together a plan is the same amount of work. But I might make like $400K off of one deal.
So you need to go, it's like my version of just go hold the camera.
Just go hold the camera.
Yeah.
Just go out there and actually do this thing, you know?
Because if you look at where I was at, we already had editing. We already had copywriting. We already had strategy. We already had a full CRM built for it.
That's crazy.
The only limit was go talk to people.
And man, I mean, shout out to Alex, man, to be honest. Like, and I tell, at that point, actually, when I hired you, true being honest, we didn't have no more budget in the company, like finances every month to take on that, And my girl, I didn't even tell her. Sorry. Sorry, babe. I didn't tell her because I was just like, I didn't know what it felt, but I was just like, because I've been trying social media stuff for a while. I was getting to that place where like, do I really want to put myself out there? Maybe I can be this cool behind the scene,
Greasy
mysterious
guy.
guy. You know what I'm saying? He's just, the African dude that just flips houses. That's what I was thinking. But then I was like, I just felt this calling to just put myself out there and just actually like talk about what I'm doing, because there's other people that need to like understand that it's possible. And I'm not saying I need to be the person, but even if it's just one person. And then I started really, I think you mentioned it to me too as well, and I've heard it other places, but like imagine 200 people sitting in front of you right now. Yeah, 200 views doesn't look crazy, but imagine 200 people sitting out in front of you right now hearing what you had to say. And I started really putting that perspective into social media. They're like, this are 200 people. And then I started getting calls from some people in church or like, oh, I saw this, your video. When I'm ready for real estate, I'm going to reach out to you. And then now really in my understanding of real estate now, to where I'm like, a relationship that you established this year might not pay you till like 5 years later. And the simple way it might pay you is just, oh yeah, you need to do real estate. There's this guy Femi that I know, and the person you might be meeting might be this millionaire that doesn't know what to use his money for, and now you found access to money.
Yeah, and I think the big thing too is just trust. Like
Yeah.
in business, there are so many snakes that if you are consistently sharing all the time your wins and losses,
Yep.
you have a bigger ability to ask for something.
Yeah.
Way bigger.
Yeah, and you've really just put in perspective to me to just look at the social media game as a long-term thing, and of course your constant referrals and connections to people I need to know, and insights that because I'm just so deep in what I'm doing I might not know about, has just been really 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 helpful, because it put things in perspective with where I'm at.
Because that's
in
what a
my
lot of
business.
people, they get very stuck. They go, I want to go viral with my first video, or I want 1 million followers.
Doesn't
And then
work
you look
that
at their
way.
business model and it's like, it can't even handle that, one. But then two, there's the other side where it's like, ask yourself the real questions, which is like, who do I need to meet to hit my goals?
Yep.
What do they want to hear me talk about?
Yep.
And then what have I done correctly to make them want to talk to me?
Yep.
And when you can check those boxes, then, like you're a good guy, for example, you do the right things outside of content.
Yeah.
Whereas like I do meet a lot of people that they'll make the best video and they'll take that advice, but then I'm like, hey, 6 people DM'd you that they want to lend. Why aren't we answering? And they're like, oh, should I check that? Like, yeah.
You probably should.
You said you wanted. So I think that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
But I'm curious from your perspective, because we're coming close to the end, but
Yeah.
this is important. What are you optimistic about, and why do you choose to stay in America? Because I grew up around a lot of people that they don't like our country. They think things are going south very quickly. But I personally think that while the news sucks and politics, truthfully, like a lot of them are just criminals in a suit, I do think there's still a lot of opportunity here. And I'm very grateful that I'm able to do it. I am able to do, because I understand there are other countries that if I were born there, this wouldn't be an option.
Yeah. I say, why do I choose to be in America? That's a great question. Well, one, of course, my son is here. I want him to have access to some of these opportunities I create. I do actually even think there's some other third world countries to where, like, because I take risk. I take a lot of risk, so I like to find things that are not clear to people just yet, and find that, like, I'm the guy that like wants to figure out what's that new gold mine that like nobody's started digging, but I know like if I start digging now, in the next 5 years, I'll be grateful I picked up the shovel.
Are you talking about the east side of Cleveland? Is that
Yes. So, just the same way I invest there, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities back home now. But the reason why I remain here is because I see the U.S. as like the marketplace. I grew up in a city in Lagos, Nigeria, which is a place where everybody from their other states, if you want to make it, I'm not saying you can't make it in your own local city or your village or your town, but if you go to Lagos, your chances of making it are just significantly higher, because everybody else who's doing that is in that city. And you want to go there, you know what I'm saying? Maybe not only to actually do business there, but to gain perspective of how big you can grow your thing. Because you might think you're the king back in your village, and you come to Lagos and you see somebody pull up with a Rolls Royce in front of you in a supposedly third world country, spending 100 million or on buying their house, and spending $10 million, 10 million naira in a club. And you're like, 10 million is what I made the last 5 years of my life. And somebody just spent it in a club on a couple bottles. Then you gain perspective and understand that, like, okay, maybe what I'm doing can be even bigger. I feel like that's what the US does for me.
Yeah.
It lets me gain perspective of like how big what I can. I hear stories about, this person just got bankrupt, but like this dude raised $100 and something million. This dude. And I'm here crying that I just lost 100,000. And it just shifts my perspective on what I can achieve. So I feel like I still have a couple more years being here to just gain perspective. There's a lot more people to meet. Nobody that's really worth something, at least that I would want to meet right now, is flying to Nigeria to come shake hands with me. I'll probably have to fly out to the US. So why not just stay here, gain those relationships, and figure out how I can leverage those relationships. Now, maybe through me, they can figure out opportunities in Africa or in Nigeria. But for right now, I think it makes sense to stay here, gain perspective on these opportunities, meet the right people, build those relationships, and figure out what I want to do in the next 10 years and how I want to leverage that.
So you think it's there is opportunity here?
There's a lot of opportunities here. And I mean, if you were born here, man, think about it. I had to get my permanent residency if I could do a lot of things. You know, I had all this. For school, I had to pay out of pocket. You have access to financial aid. And I don't want to sound like that immigrant saying, oh, well, you have all, but you really do. Back in Nigeria, you pay for healthcare, you pay for everything. Everything that every Nigerian has back in Nigeria, paid for it with cash out of their pocket.
So let me ask you this, and you don't have to go deep into it because we already at the end, but I just want to hear a quick yes or no. Do you think most Americans are lied to or see propaganda in the media that makes them think things are worse here than they are?
Yes. Yes, there's a lot of propaganda. I mean, sometimes, like, I hear the East Side. I live on the East Side. I live where I invest in. Not in the middle of it, but like 5 minutes. Most of the houses are all 5 to 10. My partners came into town today and were like, hey, well, we're grateful we don't have to drive all across town. And it's like, my baby's growing up there. I don't get any, nobody's busting in through my door and shouldn't. Even in East Cleveland, I just wholesaled a deal out in East Cleveland. I went to put a lockbox on there. I went to go walk the property myself. I greeted the neighbors.
Yeah. And I think what a lot of people forget about these areas is like 9 out of 10 times, like if someone's shooting someone, they owe them money.
Yeah,
like,
there's actually a confrontation. You might get caught in the misfire, but it's like, bro, it's not a war zone. It's not nobody shooting 24/7, just standing outside, just shooting round the clock because just waiting for you to pass by so that they can hit you with that bullet. Like if you avoid certain things, you're never gonna experience it. If you're involved with that life, then how are you surprised? Yeah. It's just like in Nigeria too. Yeah, we don't have guns just with everybody on the street, but like if you're involved in that life, you're more likely to die. And it's more violent because they will beat you up till death. So it's like if you're involved in that life, you can't be afraid of, you can't be worried or say, oh, this thing is. But if you're not, like all of my houses, as soon as I buy a house in this neighborhood, I'm shaking hands with the neighbor. They're watching over my property and getting my phone number and calling me, hey, Femi. They call me Femi.
That one day.
They actually call me Femi. So, hey, Femi, we saw this person around the house. Is that from you? That's how I am. I shake all the neighbors. They know me. I know people on that street. And that's how I just choose to invest because, there's just this whole stereotype. But like, I think there's a lot of opportunities here in the U.S. And the media is not really showing you all of those things. The media is going to show you. Same thing with Nigeria. People, I actually got asked the question when I was in college. Oh, you guys have clothes and shoes. You guys have houses over there. I'm like, what did you think? How did I get here? Like, how did I get here?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, I traveled. So I've been to South America. I've been to Europe. I've not been to Africa yet. But yeah, when you grow up in America, there's kind of this like holier than thou attitude that like, in Europe, everyone's just like drinking wine and smoking cigs. In Africa, everyone's in a mud hut. In South America, they don't even have the mud hut. And it's like, you think that, but then you go there and you're like, oh, they've been here way longer than we have. Yep. We just built a bunch of houses in the last 200 years. And that's the only difference. But I think that there is a ton of opportunity. Yes. And for everyone watching this, dude, you've been a very cool example of how you've just kept figuring it out along the way. And the whole goal of this podcast was to show people that happens in a lot of different ways. And thank you, dude.
Thank you so much, man. Great having. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week. And thank you for watching.